Shalom. I'd like to start this lesson by saying Ka Halal Yahweh, Ba Hashem Yahushai, Ba Hashem Rakakadash, double honors to the Apostle of the Great Millstone, and to the hopeful elect pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four corners of the earth. This lesson is going to be titled, it's basically going to be talking about the chains of darkness, but, slipping. When you slip, what happens when you're in these chains of darkness? What can happen? Because it's very serious. It's very, very serious because we're in, actually, you know what? I'm just going to go into the scriptures. I'm not going to talk chains of darkness. Let the scriptures talk. Okay, so Jude 1:6, and the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, right? So that was us. The hopeful elect, right? Talking about specifically, but the Israelites, they are all angels, but it's talking about the hopeful elect because the hopeful elect are the first fruits, right? So the first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness, unto the judgment of the great day. So these bodies that we're in are chains of darkness, right? We're locked in chains of darkness. We can't really see, right? Hence why when we were void of the truth, we were lost in the world, right? We were lost in the world. Right? We're void of understanding. Void. Let's see what comes up. You can even see right here, Genesis 1:2, and the earth was without form and void and darkness, right? So void and darkness is what I'm referring to. Oh, that's not the one I want to use. So right here is an example, of how I can speak for myself. Proverbs 17:18. A man void of understanding striketh hands, and becomes surety in the presence of his friends. Now, I never really got into fights, but I mean, there's times where, actually, I have gone into fights. Lucky I have, when I was in the world. It's because of void of understanding, right? For example, you go to a bar with your woman. Everyone's drunk. You come out. Some guy might push your woman, right? Maybe it was by accident. Who knows, right? He's just drunk. But you don't really want to take it into that account because you're drunk. You don't really understand the situation. You're in your emotions. That's your woman. Oh, your one and only. He pushed her, right? Then the first thing you go to is you get emotional. You got to strike your hands. Now, if it was a different situation where you've seen that he purposely went out of his way to push her, or he's put his hands on her, right? Then okay. All right. Now you have to be aware that you gotta defend yourself, so to speak. Right? Now the first thing you don't have to go to striking the hands. You don't have to do that. Right? Because you gotta think too, if I do this, what's gonna happen? Okay, I get into a fight, right? I might get arrested, and this might be happening because he pushed her. Now if he comes and strikes me, I have to defend myself. And if he pushed her, that's a different story. If he pushed her by accident, okay. But if he went out of the way and pushed her, it was okay, I have to do something here now. But back then, I didn't even go in that thought process didn't really happen. It was just see, do. Right? There was no thinking of what potentially might happen. Right? Because of void of understanding. And now I became a problem to the people around me because now it was only me, my woman, and her, or my ex-woman, not my woman now, but my ex-woman and her sister. So, if something popped off, Now I have two women to deal with. Now I'm fighting this guy. Maybe his friends come in, right? And it's just women around. So like, it's not wise to do that, right? Right. But it's because I was in the world, right? It's these chains of darkness. I couldn't really see I couldn't see what was in front of me, right? Right. So I slipped. Also, the thing is, when you're void, when you're in darkness, you don't even know if you're slipping. You have no idea. It's like being like right here. That's why I said this. It's like when the earth was without form, void and darkness. So it's void and darkness. You have no idea if you're slipping. It's just space. You have no idea because you can't see anything. You have no idea what's in front of you. Right. So that's what it felt like until I came into the truth, and I was like, oh wow, I can actually see a lot more through the power of Yahweh Hashem Shai. Right. But what so that's just to paint a picture of like, just bodies that we're in. Right. Let's go to etymology of the word slippeth. Okay, we can use the word slip. To escape, to move softly and quickly. Unrecorded Old English word of cognate Middle Lower German slip in, to glide, slide from. To glide, slide from root, slim, sticky, slippery. Okay, from mid 14th century. Lose one's footing. There you go. Slide out of place, fall into error or fault. Sense of pass unguarded or untaken. That of slide, glide. So basically the one I was looking for was to fall into error or fault. Slide out of place, lose one's footing. Let's see if there's more. No, I think that's... Yeah, that's pretty much it. But that's what I really want to talk about. But I want to talk about the bodies first so you understand. Like, these bodies are constantly slipping. Well, when you're in the world, you're constantly slipping. You don't even know you're slipping. When you're in the truth, you should know when you slip. You should know when you make a mistake, right? You should know when you lose your footing. Because we have the light. So you should know. You should be aware of that. Well, this is an example of what happens when you have wrong people around you. Psalms 38:16. For I said, hear me, lest otherwise they should rejoice over me. When my foot slippeth, they magnify themselves against me. So like when, say you have, you have these friends, you make a mistake, right? You constantly make a mistake, whether you slip with the tongue or slip actually physically, right? You make a mistake and your friends point it out and they laugh and they make fun of you, and they tell you how dumb you are and et cetera, right? Those are not your friends, right? Those are enemies. You can't trust those people. Now, right? Your brother, if you slip, right? He's going to let you know you slipped. Now, in this truth, you understand we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect here. Now, you do expect your brothers to know, right? Because like it says here, rebuke. Like Leviticus 19:17, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. Right. Psalm 38:1. A psalm of David to bring to remembrance, O Lord Yahweh, rebuke me not in thy wrath, neither chasten me in thy hot displeasure. Right? You don't want that. Proverbs 9:8. Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. Right? So, right. So if your brother rebukes you, you've done something wrong. Because let's say you talked about it, right? Let's say you talked about it, but you slipped. You slipped. Like, you're not perfect, but that's not an excuse. You can't be like, oh, well, I'm not perfect. I'm in the truth. I'm constantly trying to work on myself, right? We're not perfect here, Ak, right? Well, you can't say that. Now you're using that as like an excuse, right? Like back in Israel when my brother told me about this, but when Israelites, when they use a turtle dove, I think it was that they had a turtle dove and they pulled a turtle dove and use it as an excuse, like, oh, well, I'm going to go do this wicked thing, but I have a turtle dove to back me up, right? I believe it was the way to kind of like cover yourself, like, right? It was a turtle dove, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So, your brother rebukes you, corrects you, and you're like, oh, well, I mean, I'm not perfect. Okay, sure, that is true. But, I mean, you should know this. Okay, you're not perfect. You didn't know, or you slipped, right? But you have to understand the gravity of what you did, right? Let's say you didn't even commit the act. It doesn't matter if you were in the process of committing the act and there's a potential of that even happening, right? You need to understand that. You understand how serious that is, whatever it is, right? Because maybe that needs to happen for you to like, excuse my French, but to fucking understand it. I don't know the way the Most High works. I have no idea. He does whatever he wants to do. He moves his pieces however he wants to move them. But, when you do something, when you slip, right? And actually, let me just go to the word slip. When you slip, there's two scenarios that can happen. Like right here, Psalms 38. For I said, hear me, lest otherwise they should rejoice over me. When my foot slippeth, they magnify themselves against me. Sometimes when you slip, people, they turn on you. Right? It's like they're waiting for you to fuck up. It's like, oh, yeah, see, he finally fucked up. Yeah. Right? Look at him. He's not perfect. Right? It's like, okay. Right? Those are not the people you want to be around. You want to be around the people like the Most High, that Psalms 94:18, when I said my foot slippeth, thy mercy, O Lord, held me up. You want to be people like that. And people like that are the ones that are going to rebuke you. Right? Because if they don't rebuke you, they watch you slip, or you slip. Let's say you slip and fell, and they don't help you up, right? And they don't explain to you why you slipped, right? Or let's say you slipped and you got held up, like you caught yourself, right? They see that and they don't explain to you why you slipped, right? They don't explain to you why that happened. They just sit there and watch it happen and then sit there and don't say anything, right? Like, and I experienced both. I experienced Psalms 94:18 when I said, my foot slippeth, thy mercy, O Lord, held me up. Because, like, this truth is very, very, very fucking serious. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Now, it's a beautiful thing when Most High has your back, but, You also should be getting mad when you slip because that means you failed a test. I take it that extreme, that I failed a test. I failed. And let's say I didn't even like, yeah, let's say you failed the test and the Most High had to catch you because you failed. Just so you wouldn't flunk the test. Let's say there's a passing mark of 75%, right, on the test, and you got 70%. You're almost gonna pass, and then you made a mistake, and boom, your mark dropped to like 5%. So now you're at 70%. That's the Most High catching you. Because if he didn't catch you, maybe you kept on making more mistakes, and then you dropped. Maybe at the end of your test, you're at 50%, and you just flunked the class. Right? So it's a beautiful thing, like, to know that the Most High still has your back, even when you slip. Right? Because it's true, we're not perfect. We're still working on ourselves. Furnace. I don't want to do a lot of talking. Oh. Furnace affliction. No, that's not what I was looking for. Furnace. Is it furnace of affliction? Furnace. Oh yeah, here we go. Isaiah 48:10. Behold, I have refined thee, but not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction. Right? So he throws you into the fire because he's getting rid of these impurities, right? Right? He's refining you. Right? Proverbs 27:21. As the finding pot for silver and the furnace for gold, so is a man to his praise. Right? Proverbs 17:3. The finding pot is for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord Yahweh trieth the hearts. So you're putting you through that experience, the fire, that situation, that scenario, right? He's refining you. But let's say you make a mistake. Now you don't create let's say you don't dump the whole pot. Maybe you spilled some of it. Maybe you spilled a lot of it. Most High catches you. It stops it from happening. Right? He stops it from happening, and he also tells you what could have happened if you spilled the whole pot. Right? Afterwards. So he stops it. He stops you from spilling the whole pot. Right? Right? All the gold, the molten silver that's in that pot that's being refined in the furnace. He stops you from spilling all of it. And then he tells you what will happen if you actually spilled all of that. So you understand. Right? So the next time you're in that scenario, a scenario similar to like it, it doesn't happen because you should be aware of it because he rebuked you. Right? And majority of the time he will never come to him like, it would never be him. He would use a brother to do it. Or maybe you'll have a revelation. You're just thinking it and boom, the thought comes to your head. Right? Right? There's more on that. No, sure. Perfect one. Ezekiel 22:20. As they gathered silver and brass and iron and lead and tin in the midst of the furnace to blow the fire upon it, to melt it, so will I gather you in mine anger and my fury, and I will leave you there and melt you. Right? Right. Because that's going to happen, when these missiles come. Right? Everyone that thought that there's some gracious, some perfect person, they're following the Most High. You're going to realize that, he's not going to take you out of the fire. He's going to leave you there. And you're going to catch those missiles. And also, being the truth, right? If you're not doing the right things, like especially if you're not being sincere, Most High can leave you in the furnace. He can leave you in there. He doesn't have to help you. He doesn't have to have mercy on you. He doesn't have to do anything. He chooses to do it. So when that does happen, you need to understand why. You need to understand what just happened there. You need to really think about it and ponder on it. One, so it doesn't happen again. Because you don't want the Most High to have to bail you out in situations like that. I'm not saying we're not perfect, so you're gonna mess up. That's just what it is. But if you mess up, it's not. It's a very small mess up. It's very small, not where he has to bail you out. Yeah, you don't want him to have to bail you out. It's embarrassing. You should be ashamed of it. You should be ashamed. But that's part of growing, right? So you take that and you work on it and you don't let it happen again, right? Just gain those lashes. Just like, if, for example, like you're a kid and you're playing, whatever, you're playing basketball, soccer, whatever, football, any sports outside the pavement, you fall down. Let's say you did a move, you fall down, a move that you weren't ready for, or a move you thought you were ready for, and then you scrape your knee on the pavement. Big gashing wound, bleeding, deep, hurts. It hurts. You get up, you understand why, you have to think about why that happened. Maybe because I tried this move and I wasn't ready for it, right? Okay, now that wound has to heal, right? But you understand the scenario, why it happened, right? What you did and how not to let it happen again. So next time, now you have the scar, because, usually those wounds, they don't heal 100%. There's going to be like a scar or something, a remnant of something to, because of because it's a big wound. And that's to remind you of what happened and how you got that scar. And you're going to remember that because of the pain. Whatever type of pain it is, whether it's physical, emotional, right? Mental, you're going to remember it. And you're going to know not to do that again. Be very cautious. So you're going to think. It's going to cause you to think. So you're actually getting smarter. Right? But that's only because you're in the truth. Because we have the light. Right? It can be. No. Lamps. Just looking for a specific one. Lamp. Lamp. Okay. Tawada Yahweh Shemel Shai. Proverbs 6:23. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life. Right? So, right there. Because we have this light, we can see. We should be able to see. If you really have the light, you should be able to see everything, right? As much as the Most High wants you to see. Yahweh Shemel Shai wants you to see. So when you mess up, when you slip, right? It has to get to the point where you don't slip. That's obviously what we're aiming for, right? To be perfect, of the hopeful elect, where we don't make mistakes, right? That's only by the time we get to the end where we're in the chariots, really. You know who was chosen. But in the meantime, even if you slip, At least let it be where you slip, where you catch yourself slipping, you know? And realistically, if you think about it, if you understand, really the Most High that's allowing you to catch yourself like that. He's doing it. But you don't want it to be so grievous where he had to actually physically stop something from happening because you were not even aware that you were slipping. You don't want it to be like that, because that's dangerous. It's very dangerous. The only good that can come out of that is that you sit and ponder and understand what happened. And if the Most High is dealing with you, he will give you more information. You should attain a lot of knowledge from that situation and get wiser so it doesn't happen again. But you don't want to be in that scenario, which is my point. You want to slip where you can catch yourself, right? The goal is to not slip at all. But anyways, that's that, because this week Most High has been revealing a lot, and I'm thankful for it, because that means he's still dealing with me. But also it means I gotta do better, also, because you don't want to slip and have the Most High to intervene. But at the same time, we're not perfect, so you have to understand that too. So you're gonna make mistakes, so you can't actually for since. No. You down. Hold on. Don't let sense second address. It's a perfect one. 10. This second Ezra 16:75. I'm gonna read to 76. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for Yahweh is your guide. So that's like my scenario, that happened to me this week. You have to understand also that the Most High is the one that's putting you in these situations also. So you need to think about why you're in that situation in the first place. Why did he put you there, right? It was for you to learn a lesson. You have to think like that. Because if you don't think like that, then you're not going to obtain anything from that situation. Because you're not going to even think about that. There's a lesson to be learned here. Because you're not thinking about it. So if you're not thinking about it, you're not going to think, oh, there's a lesson to be learned here. You're going to think, oh, this happened, oh, damn, blah, 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 getting your emotions. And you miss the whole point. You missed the whole point. And that's dangerous. There's constantly a lesson to be learned in every situation. Every situation you can learn something, whether it's bad, whether it's good, whether you want it to happen, whether you did want it to happen, that's the way you got to think, because you have to take your emotions out of it. Yeah, you're going to get emotional. Of course, you don't want to fuck up. No one wants to fuck up. But I learned from my experience in sports, messing up, actually, you get better faster when you mess up more. Or if you mess up and you learn from your mess ups. Right? So each mistake is a different mistake. It's not the same mistake over and over and over again. If you're making the same mistake over and over and over again, then you're not learning. Then you have a serious problem. Then you need to think about why you keep doing this. Right? At least you want to do is make different mistakes. Because you're making different mistakes, that means you're learning from those last mistakes. You're not repeating them. Right? But yeah, be not afraid, neither doubt. For Yahweh is your guide. So you have to understand also that Most High put you in that situation. So just, you have to trust the Most High that he put you in the situation for a reason. Even if you're catching lashes, it's emotional, right? It's not something that you know you don't like because you don't want to mess up. It's not something that you thought you would ever be in, a situation you never thought you'd be in, but you have to understand you were put in that situation. Now you can't use it as an excuse to say, oh, well, the Most High put me in this situation, so, you know, it's not my fault. It's not my fault I'm in this situation. Most High put me here. Okay, if you want to think like that, then, hey, that's very dangerous. Also, that means you're not taking accountability for anything that's happening. You're just going to say the Most High put you here. No, you have to take accountability too, right? So you have to understand both, that you have to take accountability for your mistakes, but also the Most High put you in a situation for a reason. So you fucked up somewhere, right? Okay, you're in a situation. He's trying to teach you a lesson. What's the lesson here? Okay, understand what happened, why it happened, and don't let it happen again. Okay? 76, and the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord Yahweh, let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. Right? So when this does happen, you made a mistake, and, you know, because we don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to go off. You don't want to slip, right? You don't want the Most High to have to bail you out. But of course, you'd want the Most High to bail you out, of course, because you don't want to you don't want to slip and fall into darkness, right? You want the Most High to bail you out. If that was to happen, at least let him bail you out. Have mercy on you. Right? But you should be able to, you know, you'd want to be able to do it for yourself, right? But when that does happen, don't let your sins weigh you down. Don't get down on yourself and be like, oh man, fuck, I did this, right? Or I made a mistake, or I almost did this, right? I almost caused a bad thing to happen, right? Don't get down on yourself, right? It's not the end. The fact that you're even aware that you did a bad thing is a good thing. That's a good thing that you're aware of it. You can correct yourself, right? No, through the power of Yahweh Bashim Yashai, because he's the one that's dealing with you. But you can correct yourself. So it's good that you're aware of it. So focus on that, right? Focus on that. Correct yourself and just don't let it happen again. That's it. It's hard because you're in these bodies. You're in these chambers of darkness, or chains of darkness. They are chambers of darkness, though. Right? So it's hard because, you know, you're dealing with emotions and stuff like that. And, you know, you gotta be able to control that and still be logical and still find the knowledge here and the wisdom, right? That you're supposed to obtain from this situation. Because that's the essence of everything. What we're trying to be. We're trying to master ourselves and be in the chariots. Yahweh Ratazah. So yeah, when anytime things happen, you understand the Most High is putting you in that situation, but you understand why you're in that situation, right? Because they're constantly trying to perfect themselves, so we don't want to have the Most High to bail us out. But if that does happen, where you slip like that, you'd want the Most High to bail you out. You don't want to fall and crack your head open on the pavement, right? You want the Most High to catch you. But yeah, I hope this lesson was edifying, you know, to hopeful elect, right? Because the main thing is that where you don't want to slip is taking that chip. You don't want to take the chip, the mark of the beast. You do not want to take the chip. That's not where you want to slip, right? That's why you have to have your emotions in check. You always have to be, when that happens in any scenario, you have to be able to control yourself and find the logic here of what's going on, what's really going on, because we have the light. So you have to be able to see. So what's really going on here? What's happening? Right? Yeah, so you don't want to take that chip because that's the main one. That's the main slippage. And he's not going to catch you from that. He won't catch you. Once you take that chip, there is no mercy that he's going to get. You're going to be able to catch yourself from that. Right? And once you take it, you're done. That's it. So this is just practice. This is practice or test before the exam, right? Midterms before the exam. Think of it like that. Anyways, I hope this lesson was edifying. I'd like to close out by saying Ka Halal Yahweh, Ba Hashem Yahoshai, Ba Hashem Rakah Kadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and to the hopeful elect, pushing his word and truth and sincerity across the four corners of the earth, death and destruction to his wicked kingdom, and the 2/3 as well. Kwam Yasharala, Baal Daba, Shalom.